My mother-in-law took it upon herself to plan my husband's birthday. When we showed up, it was a tribute to his childhood friends and exes. We wanted to remind him of happier times, she said. What he said during his speech changed everything. My mother-in-law, Barbara, had a knack for taking over. Living in Chicago, she was always around, offering unsolicited advice and dropping by unannounced. But when she decided to plan my husband Mark's 35th birthday party without telling me, it felt like a step too far. I found out about the party through a group text Barbara sent to friends and family. Surprise party for Mark. This Saturday at 7 p.m. at Lakeside Banquet Hall, the message read. I was stunned. Not only had she taken over the planning, but she hadn't even mentioned it to me. Trying to keep the peace, I decided to go along with it. Mark, ever the peacemaker, sighed when I told him but agreed to attend. When we arrived at the banquet hall, the first thing I noticed was a large banner that read, Happy Birthday, Mark. A trip down memory lane. The walls were covered with photos from Mark's past, childhood snapshots, high school moments, and college days. At first, it seemed sweet. But as I looked closer, I saw numerous pictures of Mark with his ex-girlfriends and old friends he no longer spoke to. One table even had memorabilia from his previous relationships, love letters, gifts, and trinkets. It felt like a shrine to his past loves. Barbara approached us, beaming. Do you love it? We wanted to remind you of happier times, she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Mark's jaw tightened. He glanced at me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and embarrassment. Taking a deep breath, he walked to the center of the room where a microphone stood. He tapped it, and the room fell silent. Thank you all for coming tonight, Mark began, his voice steady but firm. I appreciate the effort put into this event. However, I need to address something. He paused, scanning the room. While I cherish my past and the experiences that have shaped me, I've moved forward. I'm grateful for my life now, especially for my wife, who has been my rock and partner in every sense. He looked at me, squeezing my hand. Turning to his mother, he continued, Mom, I know you meant well, but this party doesn't reflect who I am today. It's important to honor the present and the people who are part of my life now. Barbara's face turned red. I was only trying to do something nice, she muttered. Mark nodded. I understand, but moving forward, please consult me before planning such events. The room was thick with tension. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in agreement. Mark's old friends and exes looked particularly awkward. After that night, boundaries were firmly established. Barbara became more cautious about involving herself in our affairs without permission. It was a turning point in our relationship with her, one that emphasized the importance of respecting our autonomy as a couple. Reflecting on it now, I realize how crucial it was for Mark to stand up that day. It not only set the tone for our future interactions with Barbara, but also reinforced our unity as husband and wife. Family dynamics can be challenging, especially when dealing with overbearing relatives. But asserting boundaries and communicating openly can lead to healthier relationships and mutual respect. After that night, things were quiet. Too quiet. Barbara didn't say much in the days that followed the party. She didn't call, didn't show up like she usually did. At first, I thought maybe the message had finally landed. Maybe she got it. But nope. About 2 weeks later, she invited us over for dinner. Mark was hesitant, but he said, let's just go, keep things civil. I didn't argue. I wish I had. When we walked into her house, it felt off. The lights were low, candles on the table, and soft jazz playing in the background like we were at some strange date night restaurant. And then I saw them. Seated around the table were 4 of Mark's old high school friends, including Tina. Tina wasn't just any ex. She was the one Barbara had always liked, the perfect one. She never stopped mentioning, even years after we were married. Oh! Surprise! Barbara said, walking out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a floral apron like we were in some sitcom. I thought it would be fun to reconnect. Mark's face froze. I felt my stomach drop. Tina was in town, Barbara added, and I just thought, well, you kids had such a spark back then. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mark stayed calm. He always did. But I could see his jaw clenching. We sat down for dinner. It was quiet at first. Then Tina started in. Remember when we all went to Lake Geneva and you made us paddle all the way to the island? She laughed. God, I miss those times. Barbara nodded enthusiastically. So full of life back then. Mark looked at me. I gave him the smallest nod. Say it. Say something. He put down his fork. You're right. I was full of life. I also made a lot of dumb choices. Not everything from the past deserves a reunion tour. Tina blinked. Wow. Okay. Barbara laughed awkwardly. Mark, really? It's just dinner. No, it's not, he said. This is just another one of your setups. She went quiet. Mark pushed back from the table. We're leaving. But that wasn't the end of it. A week later, I found out from a mutual friend that Barbara had been telling people I was controlling, that I was pulling Mark away from his family, that I was the reason he didn't see his friends anymore. She was poisoning the well, one phone call at a time. Even worse, she told Mark's cousin that I never liked his family anyway. A total lie. I had tried so hard to be part of them. So I told Mark everything. Every rumor I'd heard. Every person who had pulled me aside to ask, is everything okay between you and Barb? And then something I didn't expect happened. Mark sat down. He looked more tired than I'd ever seen him. I think my mom's trying to sabotage our marriage, he said. That hit me hard. Not because I didn't already suspect it, but because he finally said it out loud. I thought maybe we'd seen the worst. I was wrong. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. Pages and pages. It was from Barbara. A guilt trip wrapped in a monologue. She called me a thief of time, accused me of stealing her son's loyalty, said I had turned him into a stranger she no longer recognized. I didn't respond. But Mark did. He mailed it back with one sentence added at the bottom, I'm not yours to control anymore. A few days after Mark sent the letter back, everything went quiet again. Too quiet. But if I'd learned anything by now, it was that with Barbara, silence didn't mean surrender. It meant she was planning. And yeah, she was. One morning, Mark got a call from his job's HR department. They were just following up on a concern. A concern? Apparently, someone had sent an anonymous email claiming Mark was emotionally unstable and under pressure at home. The message hinted at a family situation affecting his judgment at work. The phrasing was careful, but clearly personal. Mark was furious. Only one person would pull this, he said. Only one person even knows enough to word it like that. He confronted her. She denied it, of course. Said she was shocked someone would say such horrible things about her son. He didn't believe her. But here's the thing. Barbara didn't stop there. She changed tactics. Out of nowhere, she started posting old pictures of Mark on Facebook. Him and Tina. Him and his old high school friends. Pictures that had no business showing up now. Captions like, the good old days. Before things changed. Or, back when he smiled more. It was petty. But it worked. People started messaging Mark. Asking if he was okay. If I was okay. If we were going through something. It messed with his head. Made him second-guess everything. And then it got worse. Barbara showed up at his office. Uninvited. Walked right into the lobby with a Tupperware of his favorite casserole like it was 2005 and he still lived at home. Told the receptionist she was dropping off something for her baby. He had to walk her out in front of coworkers. He came home that night quiet. Sat down, took off his shoes, and stared at the wall. She's trying to wear me down, he said finally. She wants me to snap so she can be the victim again. And that's when he suggested the unthinkable. What if we moved? I was stunned. He'd lived in Chicago his whole life. His job, his friends, everything was here. But he was serious. Some space might be the only thing that works. She won't stop otherwise. We talked about it for days. We didn't make a final decision, but we started looking at places, quiet suburbs, even some options out of state. Just to see. And somehow, Barbara found out. She sent an email. Not to us, to Mark's boss. She accused me of pressuring Mark to relocate away from his family support system. She claimed I was interfering with his career growth for selfish reasons. That was it. Mark didn't just get angry. He got cold. Like stone. He took the email, printed it out, and scheduled a meeting with HR himself. Showed them everything. Explained everything. Put it all on the table. Then he blocked her. Phone, email, social media. She showed up at our house 2 nights later, banging on the door, screaming, crying. I've never seen Mark that way. He opened the door and just said, "You've burned every bridge, Mom. I warned you." He closed it before she could respond. And the very next morning, we got a letter in the mail. It was from Barbara's lawyer. So yeah, a lawyer. We opened the envelope in total silence. I already knew it wasn't going to be good, but I wasn't prepared for how bad it actually was. Barbara was threatening to file for grandparent visitation rights. We didn't even have kids. In her mind, she was preemptively setting up for a custody situation. She claimed we were emotionally unstable, that I was alienating her son from his family, and that when we eventually had children, she wanted court-protected access to them. It was insane. Mark laughed when he read it. Not a happy laugh. One of those I'm losing my mind laughs. Then he crumpled the letter and threw it across the room. He called the lawyer listed. The guy sounded almost embarrassed, like even he knew this was messed up. He admitted Barbara had been very emotional and that she'd paid him in cash to send the letter, just to make a point. A point? That's when something in Mark just snapped. He pulled out a folder we had kept over the past year. Every message, every voicemail, every social media post, every ridiculous stunt she pulled. He emailed all of it to the lawyer with a message that read, "Tell your client she doesn't know what war looks like yet." He wasn't kidding. First thing Mark did? He filed a formal complaint against her for harassment. Not just through personal means, but also through attempts to interfere at his workplace. Second, he made an appointment with a therapist, not for himself, for Barbara. She had been begging for family counseling for years when things went south. So now he gave her what she claimed to want, except it was with a court-appointed psychologist who would determine if she was mentally fit to be around us again. Third, he sent a message to every family member who had been caught in her lies. "I'm done pretending things are okay. Here's what she's done. If you side with her, we're done too." Some were shocked. A few backed off. But most? Silence. Because deep down, they'd always known she was like this. No one ever said anything. No one wanted to deal with her rage. I'll admit something here. I made mistakes too. I let things slide too many times. I smiled when I should have said, no. I told myself to be polite, to keep peace, to not start drama. But by keeping quiet, I gave her space to keep going. I enabled her, even when it hurt me. So I wrote her a letter too. Not emotional. Not angry. Just facts. You treated me like a rival. Like I was something you had to beat. You never saw me as part of your son's life, only a threat. You never asked what we wanted, only pushed your own version of family. That's over now. I will not apologize for protecting my marriage from you. We mailed it. Certified. She never responded. That was the last time we heard from Barbara. Mark and I ended up moving not far, just far enough. We bought a house in a quiet suburb where her car had never been and hopefully never will be. The truth is, people always tell you family is everything. But sometimes, family is where the deepest wounds come from. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not for revenge. Not for drama. But for peace. We haven't spoken to Barbara in over a year now. No surprise visits. No calls. Nothing. Mark still keeps that crumpled letter in his desk drawer, the one from her lawyer. He says it reminds him what we survived. And me? I just keep living my life, grateful we finally chose each other over the chaos. No more old photos. No more fake dinners. No more war. Just peace, the kind we fought for. The kind we earned.